She thought she was alone, but the millionaire watching her saw everything. Chapter 1. She believed solitude was a kind of shelter. In the narrow apartment overlooking the river's industrial bend, Mara learned how to keep her world small enough to control. The windows rattled when trucks passed on the bridge, and the radiator clicked with a tired patience that matched her own. Every morning she woke before the city fully stirred, tying her hair into a knot, pulling on a coat that had seen better winters, and stepping into the day with the careful rhythm of someone who had learned not to attract attention. She worked late hours at a neighborhood bakery, mixing dough and sweeping floors long after customers had gone. Because quiet suited her and overtime paid better, she told herself she was alone by choice. It was easier to believe that than to admit how often she felt unseen. Across the river beyond the glass towers that caught the sun like a net, Adrian Vale watched the city wake. He had built an empire on data, logistics, and a relentless appetite for understanding patterns others missed. His penthouse office sat above a surveillance hub he had funded years earlier, a private network designed to optimize traffic, flow and public safety in collaboration with the city. Cameras traced movement not to invade lives but to reduce accidents, anticipate emergencies, and keep systems running. Adrian told himself that purpose justified the reach of his tools. He did not watch people. He watched patterns, or so he believed until one early morning when a small anomaly caught his eye. A woman leaving the bakery after midnight, every night taking the same route, pausing at the same corner to breathe as if the air there held a memory. Mara did not know about the cameras or the screens, or the man whose attention had been drawn by the quiet consistency of her life. She knew only that the city felt heavier lately. The bakery owner had hinted at layoffs. The landlord had posted a notice about renovations that would raise rent. She began counting her coins with a sharper edge of fear. Some nights, when exhaustion loosened her guard, she sat on the river steps and let the hum of distant traffic fill the hollow places. She thought she was alone then, wrapped in the anonymity of darkness, the river carrying her thoughts away. Adrian noticed the way she sat, shoulders curved inward, hands clasped together as if holding something fragile. He noticed because he had trained himself to notice everything, and because the network flagged the area after a series of late-night incidents. He told himself his interest was professional. He adjusted camera angles, reviewed timestamps, cross-referenced reports, yet his gaze lingered. In the sterile glow of his screens, her stillness felt louder than the city's rush. He wondered what weight she carried that made her pause there, night after night. When an alert flashed red, on a rainy Tuesday, Adrian leaned forward. A power outage had plunged several blocks into darkness. The system rerouted traffic lights and notified emergency services. On one screen, Mara's familiar corner dissolved into shadow. On another, movement flickered, figures converging where light had failed. Adrian's breath caught, unprofessional and unwanted. He toggled feeds, enhanced contrast, tracked motion. He saw Mara hesitate, step back, clutch her coat tighter. He saw her look around, searching for the presence she believed did not exist. She did not see the men approach until they were too close for comfort. They did not speak loudly. They did not run. They moved with the casual confidence of people who believed no one was watching. Mara's heart hammered. She calculated distance, exits, options that dwindled with every step they took. She thought of the bakery's warm ovens, of flour dust in the air, of the safety of routines that could not follow her here. She thought she was alone. Adrian did not hesitate. He overrode protocol, patched into municipal lines, flagged the nearest patrol, and triggered floodlights installed for emergencies. The corner burst into sudden white. The men froze, startled by the unexpected exposure. Sirens bloomed in the distance like a promise kept. On the screen, Mara staggered back into the light, blinking, hands raised more in disbelief than surrender. The men melted away, their shapes dissolving into alleys that now seemed far less forgiving. Mara stood there long after the lights dimmed and the patrol passed, heart still racing, breath fogging the air. She did not know who had intervened or why. She knew only that something unseen had shifted the night in her favor. She walked home with trembling legs and locked her door behind her, leaning against it as if it might float away. Alone, she told herself again, because the alternative felt too strange to accept. Across the river, Adrian sat back, pulse echoing in his ears. He had crossed a line he had drawn for himself, not because policy demanded it, but because a person had mattered more than a pattern. He told himself it was an exception, He told himself he would forget her now that the danger had passed. He closed the feed and stared at the city, its lights, a constellation of lives brushing against each other without ever truly touching. Chapter 2. The days that followed did not return to normal. Mara felt watched in the most unsettling way, not by eyes but by circumstance itself. The bakery's ovens malfunctioned, then were repaired faster than expected by a technician who refused payment, citing a city program she had never heard of. The landlord's renovation notice was quietly withdrawn. A new streetlight flickered to life at her corner, its glow steady and reassuring. Each small change felt like a hand smoothing the rough edges of her life. And she could not decide whether to be grateful or afraid. Adrian wrestled with restraint. He reviewed reports, justified interventions, and tightened access controls. He told himself that influence should be invisible, that help should not announce itself. Yet he found his thoughts circling back to Mara's corner, to the way her shoulders had loosened under the floodlights. He instructed his team to audit safety measures in the neighborhood, couching his directives in data-driven language that hid the personal spark beneath. If he could not look away, he could at least make the watching useful. Mara began to notice a different kind of presence at the bakery. Customers lingered longer, leaving generous tips, praising the bread as if it carried something rare. A journalist wrote a short piece about community businesses that anchored the area, featuring the bakery as an example of resilience. The owner's mood lifted. Hours stabilized. Mara's hand steadied as she kneaded dough, the simple miracle of it responding to her touch grounding her. She did not connect these changes to a man across the river. Because why would she? Wealth and influence belonged to another universe, one that did not intersect with hers. The intersection came quietly, as intersections often do. A city-sponsored workshop was announced, offering grants to small businesses that trained local residents. The bakery owner insisted Mara attend, seeing an opportunity she had never claimed for herself. The venue was a renovated warehouse filled with sunlight and possibility. Mara sat at a long table, listening to speakers talk about systems and sustainability, words that felt too big until they weren't. When the final speaker took the stage, applause rippled through the room, and Mara felt the air change. Adrian Vale did not look like a savior. He looked like a man accustomed to rooms pausing for him, his presence a practiced blend of confidence and reserve. He spoke about responsibility without spectacle, about how cities thrived when care was designed into their bones. Mara listened, skeptical and compelled, recognizing in his careful phrasing the same invisible hand that had nudged her life recently. When their eyes met across the room, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that startled her. She looked away first, heart thudding, convinced she was projecting meaning where none existed. After the workshop, Adrian did not approach her. He knew better than to collapse distance into demand. Instead, he ensured the grant program favored businesses like the bakery. That mentorship slots opened where Mara could step into them if she chose. He watched from afar as she did, watching a city learn to breathe differently. He told himself that if she never knew, that would be the purest outcome. He told himself that anonymity was a gift. Mara's choice arrived wrapped in opportunity. The bakery was approved for a training grant. The owner asked her to lead the program, to become something like a manager, to learn accounting and logistics alongside baking. The offer terrified her. Leadership meant visibility, and visibility had always felt dangerous. Yet she remembered the floodlights. The way fear had retreated under illumination, she accepted. As weeks turned into months, Mara grew into the role with a cautious confidence that surprised her. She learned to speak in meetings, to ask questions that mattered, to trust that her presence could improve a room. The neighborhood changed around her in subtle ways. Safer crossings, cleaner streets, a rhythm that felt kinder. She still sat by the river sometimes, but now she watched the water with curiosity rather than dread. Adrian watched less, or rather, he learned how to watch differently. He delegated, trusted systems, stepped back. He let the city's improvements become their own story. Yet one evening, when an unexpected storm battered the river and alarms flared across his screens, he found himself checking the familiar corner. He saw Mara there, not alone, but with a group of trainees, laughing as rain soaked them, their joy an act of defiance. He smiled, a small private thing. Chapter 3. The truth has a way of surfacing when it is ready. For Mara, it arrived in the form of gratitude she could no longer place. At a community meeting about safety upgrades, a city official thanked a private partner for funding emergency infrastructure that had reduced incidents by half. The name was spoken with admiration. Adrian Vale. The room buzzed. Mara felt a thread tighten in her chest, connecting dots she had not known existed. She remembered the floodlights, the repaired oven, the workshop, the grant. She felt a rush of anger at the idea of being managed, and an equal rush of relief at having been cared for. She sought him out not in his penthouse but at the river, on a public walkway he had funded but rarely visited. He stood there alone, watching the water, the city reflected in broken light. When she spoke his name, he turned, surprise softening into recognition. They stood facing each other with the distance of the river between them, a boundary that felt earned. "I think you saw me," Mara said, not accusing, not pleading, just stating a truth that had found its voice. Adrian did not deny it. He explained without justifying, told her about systems and safeguards, about a night when patterns had become personal. He apologized for crossing a line she had not drawn, for acting without her consent. His honesty was careful but complete. He did not ask for forgiveness. He did not offer more than he already had. Mara listened, the river's murmur filling the spaces between his words. She considered the life she had built in the months since that night, the confidence she had discovered, the safety that had allowed it to grow. She considered the fear of being seen and the reality of being protected. She chose nuance, a rare and powerful thing. "I don't want to be watched," she said, "but I don't want to pretend that care is an offense." Adrian nodded. He promised boundaries, transparency, a step back that would be real. He offered her a seat at the table where decisions were made, not as a symbol but as a voice rooted in lived experience. He offered the one thing he had not given before, choice. Mara did not answer immediately. She walked along the river, letting the city reveal itself in layers. She returned with clarity shaped by courage. She accepted the seat not because of him, but because of the people she could represent. She insisted on community oversight, on limits written into policy, on light that illuminated without blinding. Adrian agreed, learning a humility that no amount of wealth had taught him. In time, the city adjusted to a new balance. Surveillance became accountability. Infrastructure became invitation. Mara's bakery thrived, a place where trainees learned not just skills but dignity. Adrian's company earned praise for innovation that listened as much as it saw. They did not become a story of romance or rescue, but of respect forged under pressure. On some evenings, Mara still sat by the river. Sometimes Adrian walked past nodding, keeping the distance she had defined. She was not alone in the way she once feared. She was part of a city that had learned, imperfectly and earnestly, to watch over its people without taking their power away, and that, she decided, was a miracle worth believing in.